Since we implemented Codility, we solved a lot of the problems that we hoped to solve before we had the tool. Before we had the tool, we were losing sort of 2, 3, up to like 4 weeks when we really studied the data in time in our interview processes, largely down to the fact that the case studies were either hard to administer, so difficult to communicate to people, difficult to explain to them in a kind of clear and concise way, or actually then reviewing them after we received them, after the candidates completed them, was also taking time, largely down to the fact that they were reviewed by our engineers who were busy, didn't have the time to spend an hour or whatever it was to do it, or the teams were too small and we didn't have enough time to onboard new reviewers. So the tool allowed us to take all of that away, be far, far quicker, purely because the score is instantaneous. You get it immediately. The candidate gets the same score. The candidate can't, in a way, disagree with the score because it's taking away that subjectivity that I think we also had when 2 or 3 different people look at a case study. Sometimes you get different scores or different stylistic reviews based on whatever they personally look for. So the tool took away that, made everything a lot quicker, made everything a lot more kind of scientific in that way, and obviously allowed us to make the candidate experience far, far better with a much faster process.
So one thing I really, really like about the platform is, how easy and intuitive it is, because, we are working as an ecosystem. So we have multiple ventures that we're working, and the multiple ventures have different positions, and all different positions have, 1 or 2 different tests that we create. So everything is very well organized for us. And then, that's one key area at the end of the month when we look at, how Codility platform has helped us. We can navigate through each venture, each test, and really look into every little details there. And I think the second one is also the data that Codility gives us. I think the discussion that we had with Zois a few weeks back on all the different numbers, how do we do the test, and how many candidates take the test, and all the different statistics we have really has helped us to understand and align internally to better use the platform. So I think these are the 2 main things.
I think the return on investment for us, I already spoke a bit about time, and I really think that's it. I think it's everybody's time that is returned through the platform, whether it's setting up a test, doing the test, or then grading the test after it's completed. Each step of that process is quicker, and time is something you can't buy. So it's a pretty good return on investment in my opinion.
And one more thing what I can add is also the test that's already there in the platform. The people who have already taken the test, we have everything very clear there. If, after 2-3 months, we want to go back. If we have a candidate applying to the platform after 3 or 4 months, we still can go back and see, what was their previous score, which venture did they apply, and all the data is very clearly there, and we can use it for references as well.
Maybe a bit of also a reason why we implemented it in the first place, because I think this is also a key thing. So at Finleap, as a company builder with different ventures all using different technologies, depending on the latest technologies when they're first building their platforms or their tools, or what is the best tool for the job, we really have quite an eclectic bunch of different technologies. And what we allow us to do through the platform is really test any of them. So I think when we first started, we were testing things like Ruby, so slightly older technologies. We then moved forward to develop, later versions of Java. And I think now that we've expanded the tool through success and persuaded the hiring managers who weren't so interested in using it, or we didn't see a use case in the past, to also start using it for things like data science, which opens up a whole new spectrum of technologies away from just pure back-end or front-end engineering when we used it in the first place. So we use a wide spectrum purely because of this this company builder environment and the fact that we don't have a consistent tech stack across the ventures. But it's it's a perfect tool when working in that environment to be able to have a wider way of test available to us.
I think to add to that, I think also the kind of the library that we have in Codility is really, really helpful for our hiring managers to really go deep into it and understand what are the different questions or tasks that we need for this particular position. And it also lays down really well, if it's a beginner question, advanced level or a medium level. So, they can really go into in different modes. If you're looking for a junior, for example, a junior data scientist, we want to have just to understand the basic SQL skills or the basic Python skills. We don't want to give them really hard ones. So the different options that the library gives us, I think that's amazing. And I think that makes our hiring managers' lives easier to pick up the questions. And I think, I also had a discussion with Zoe a few weeks back on one of the Python questions that we had. And then, this really gives the hiring manager a really objective mindset to understand, because we will be hiring a data scientist now, and maybe it's a few months later we are hiring one. So we would want to have the same questions also to assess the same position later on as well. So we need those questions there. And if we have the access and if we have that ready, I think that's really, really amazing. And that's what Codility really does well. Yeah.
That's a very good question. I think, again, I'd like to think about the whole timeline of this. So when we first started looking into Codility, of course, we were doing our homework, and I think we looked at 4 or 5 other tools. There are, of course, other tools out there that do quite similar things. Some of them are better than others, and I won't name any names, so I don't want to, put anyone on the spot there. But what we found with Codility, not just with how the tool looks, how it works, how it is also on the end of the developer, which is also very important to us for their experience, how it is for also us to administer, but also how were those initial calls, when we first started speaking with you. You said to put Zoe on the spot there, but I think we had Mustafa, I think, was with us in the early calls. And what we found with Codility were people that really knew what they were talking about, had already answered our questions that we were coming into the first calls to ask. They really knew how to tell us what we needed to hear and what we wanted to know, and they generally had the answers, and the tool also provided the different options that we looked for. So one of our, let's say, judgment criteria that we were grading these tools on was, of course, how good is the support, how good is the service that we can get also on the human side behind the tool. And we found that at the early stage, Codility was one of the highest ranked from there. And I think it was a good indication of what was to come. I don't think we've ever had problems trying to get help from you when we need it. I think we've had quite a few questions over the last couple of years, but I think we've always found that we get a quick answer, we get support, we get a nice approach. It's always friendly and consultative to talk with you guys. So I think from my side, it's been certainly a pleasure. I think Nabeel's probably worked more with you over the last few months, so I guess his answer is also important. So I'll pass over to him.
Yeah, I can't agree more. Definitely, I mean, from my interaction with the team, with Zoe, with Mustafa, and definitely has been very nice, very friendly, as Tom mentioned. The 2 instances I would definitely want to point out is the quarterly, Finleap Codility review that you guys send us, and Zoe's kind enough to also go through the slides and understand and give us a real quick insight to how we are doing. It's really, really helpful from the recruitment perspective, so that we have a team of recruiters who are sending out Codility's test and really don't know what's happening in the back end, the numbers, and that gives us a perspective on how we can do better, or what we need to change, or what is something right that we're doing. So that's one thing. And I think Zoe has always been very, very quick in answering the question that we have, especially the one which I mentioned earlier on the question that we wanted back in the library, that our hiring manager was dying to get it. And then it was just a matter of waiting for his holidays to be back. So I think that was the only delay that we had. But then once he was back, then we quickly had access, and I think that really was very pleasing for the experience of our hiring managers using the Codility. That's also very important for us because we want them to create, test, and then use the platform as much as possible. So yeah, definitely a great experience so far.